Today, we're going to go over some of the main costs of living for Vilnius, Lithuania. While some of these costs might be similar to other parts of Lithuania, the research will be most centered around Vilnius. We're going to go over costs like rent, food, and transportation. If you're watching this and you live in Vilnius, leave a comment down below if you have anything else to add. So let's get started. Vilnius has a wide range of apartment styles, from old buildings built in the early 1900s to renovated and unrenovated Soviet-era units to brand new, recently built apartment buildings. As a result of this variety, the price range is quite wide and isn't just about floor space. Rental information comes from searches on aruodas.lt. And if you're new to searching for housing in Lithuania, it's important to first know the cultural difference in listing rooms. In the US or Canada, apartment listings may be described as a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, etc. This typically means that you have 1 room meant for sleeping, and it's just assumed that there is also a main living space as well. However, in Lithuania, the main living room is also counted in the number of rooms. So when you see a listing for 1 room, this is essentially a studio apartment. A 2-room listing would translate to 1 bedroom and a living room. Thankfully, kitchen and bathroom spaces aren't counted as rooms. Getting down to actual costs, fairly nice studio apartments right in the Old Town city center are going for 500 to 800 euros per month at the time of making this video. 2-room apartments are currently listing for 600 to 1,000 euros per month. Moving out to areas just beside the city center, like Naujamiestis and Snipiškės, rent for a studio apartment can be as low as 250 to 300 euros. These areas are quite close to the heart of the Old Town and might only require 20 to 30 minutes of walking to get to the middle. 2-room apartments in these neighborhoods are mostly between 500 to 800, but of course there are some places that are cheaper and others that are more expensive. Naturally, as with most cities, the further away from the center you are, the cheaper it gets. Moving out to a more distant neighborhood, such as Karoliniškės, 1-room studio apartments range between 200 and 400 euros per month. In the same neighborhood, 2-room apartments are about 600 euros. If you're looking to lower your costs, living further away from the city center might be a good option, since Vilnius has a fairly robust and affordable public transportation network, especially if you live close to a main road. And if all you want is a private room in a shared apartment, prices are obviously even lower. With these prices, it is important to know that utilities like energy and water typically aren't included. As a result, you could end up paying around 40 to 150 euros per month in electricity and heating costs on top of your rent, depending on the condition of the apartment. When it comes to communications, an internet plan will cost you somewhere between 10 and 20 euros per month, while having a phone plan with data can cost you as little as 5 euros per month. For phone plans, it really depends on how many minutes of talk time you need and how much data you plan on using. Moving on to public transportation, a 30-minute bus ride in Vilnius will cost 65 cents, and this goes up to 90 cents for an hour. These are the 2 simplest options, but obviously you can pay more to get passes lasting from 1 day all the way to a whole year. The cost for a 12-month unlimited pass is 310 euros, but there is different pricing for passes that are only valid on weekdays. And if you're a student, tickets are always 50% of the normal fare. If you do purchase these tickets, make sure you always have proof of your student status when you're traveling on the bus. So staying on the topic of transportation, a taxi ride across town might cost between 5 and 10 euros, and more for busy times of the day or week. If you're looking to travel somewhere further, here are some examples of costs for long-distance journeys from Vilnius. A one-way train ticket to Trakai is just over 2 euros. A one-way bus or train journey to Kaunas is between 6 and 9 euros. If you want to take a trip to Riga, a bus trip will cost you between 20 and 30 euros each way, depending on the level of service and comfort. If you're hoping to have your own vehicle, insurance will cost around 10 to 20 euros per month, but this largely depends on your driving history and experience. Moving on to food, when it comes to dining out at restaurants, a cheap meal can cost you as little as 4 euros, while eating at a more upscale restaurant might be closer to 20 or 25 euros. Overall, however, going to an average casual restaurant will run you between 8 and 15 euros, including drinks. The cost for food shopping will vary wildly from person to person. Obviously, this depends on your eating habits, dietary restrictions, and tolerance for repetition. Cooking with cheaper products that you might find on sale or in season should mean that you'll spend just 50 cents to 1 euro per meal. As a result, your monthly grocery budget could be somewhere between 50 and 100 euros per month if you're cooking on the simpler side. Buying more high-quality imported products will of course raise your budget significantly. Now that we've covered some of the big monthly expenses, here are some other sample costs and ranges for various things in Vilnius. A basic cheap cup of coffee will cost you between 1 and 3 euros. A bottle of average beer is between 2 and 4 euros depending on the size and type. And admission into various national museums and historical sites are about 4 to 6 euros. The Economist's Big Mac Index is an interesting and more lighthearted measure to compare purchasing power between currencies. In case you've never heard of it, The Economist magazine/website uses the cost of a McDonald's Big Mac burger as a standard measure to compare the strength of currencies around the world. At the time of making this video, the website's Big Mac Index says that a Big Mac costs €4.42 in the EU, making it almost 15% cheaper than in the United States. However, checking the price of a Big Mac in Vilnius, the burger currently costs just €3.35, which is just one other way to demonstrate that the cost of living in Lithuania is lower than in other parts of Europe, as well as when compared to the United States. But as the website notes, this metric was never intended as a precise gauge of currency misalignment and is just a tool to make exchange rate theory more digestible. It is fun to look at though, so we'll include a link to it in the description. I could probably go on for another half hour about various costs in Lithuania, but I just wanted to cover the basics with a focus on the lower end and just stop there. It is important to know that prices are generally on the rise because of war, the pandemic, inflation, and various supply chain issues. This means that numbers may not be accurate for very long. You should also know that wages and salaries are also fairly low in Lithuania, and this matches the low cost of living. So this is great if you're earning a foreign income, but working locally, your budget might be a little tighter. But what do you think of the cost of living in Vilnius, Lithuania? Is it affordable? And if you live here already, what other costs should other people know about? Leave a comment down below to let us know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.